Hey NYC, it's Pastor Bree here for those of you who don't know me. Last week we started our mental health series called Let's Check In with Andrew Williams, our high school guys leader in Mesquite. And he discussed how mental health is not an isolated situation, and you can be a Christian and be affected by mental health, whether it's you directly or someone that you can be affected. And the reality is, a lot of times we ask why. And the simple answer is that we live in a broken world, y'all. Sin is real. And when sin entered the world became broken. And so we are going to deal with mental health. We're going to deal with pain. We're going to deal with, heartache and trauma. But that does not mean that we have to just be in pity about it. We have a hope for we have a hope as believers of Christ. And that can be even found as a descriptive in the book of Revelations 21, 3-4. It says, I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them and they will be his people. God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things are gone forever. Again, we have a hope when we are followers and believers of Christ. When Jesus died for our sins, y'all, we were raised to new life. And so there is an African proverb actually that says, and there's variations to it, but they say the same thing. It says, until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. You hold the key to your story. A lot of times we will, go through things, and people, based on what they're seeing and observing, they'll create their own story for us. And it can be far from what is going on in our lives. And the enemy wants you to feel like he can control your story, that there's no hope in your story, that there's nothing but gloom in your story, that you are all alone in your story, that there's no supporting characters in your story. And that's a lie. Here at NYC, there's 3 focuses. We have Christ, community, and conversation. And our church, NCC, we say we live life together. And we believe that community is so important. Being in community is so vital to your spiritual health. And part of making sure that you are a whole being is to take care of your mental, your spiritual, and your physical health. The enemy wants you to feel isolated. There are times when he will come and just when you're alone and try to talk game. He did it even with Jesus. He did it when Jesus was in the desert. And if anything, if he can do it with Jesus, that means we're not exempt from his temptation. And we're not exempt from him, again, trying to bring us down and trying to make us feel as if the Lord is not with us. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with our emotions. We have to stop treating our God, who is the creator of everything, as if he can't handle our problems. There's no problem too big or too small that he cannot handle. He wants you to be honest with your emotions. David is credited for writing many of the Psalms in the book of Psalms. And in Psalms 22, 1-2, it says, my God, why have you abandoned me? Why are you so far away when I groan for help? Every day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Every night I lift my voice, but I find no relief. And if you read the book of Psalms, this is a book that has highs and lows all over the emotion spectrum. And here David is obviously in anguish. But not only that, Easter just happened, y'all. And so this actually sounds pretty similar to something we may have heard. And I'm sorry in advance if I'm like not doing well with the pronunciation. I'm just, I don't know, struggles is real. But Jesus says something similar to what David says in Matthew 46, 1-2. It says, at about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you abandoned me? And if Jesus can be real with his emotions, and this is him on the cross, y'all, if Jesus can be real with his emotions, why can't we be real and honest with the Lord too? And I'm not just speaking, I'm speaking for all of us, because sometimes we struggle with just being real and honest with our emotions. But again, we have to remind ourselves that God is big enough to handle our emotions. I also want to remind you that whatever it is that is beneath will come to the surface. I remember in college, there was a situation, an incident in which someone, I guess I would say, assaulted me, and they dropped me, and I I didn't feel anything at first. Like, I was upset in the moment at that time. That evening, it was a long situationship, but the following days, I actually felt pain. I was actually reminded of that particular situation just a few days ago because my lower back was hurting, and I had to address it. Like, that's when the whole fight or flight situation, quote, I might be butchering it up, but it's pretty much when there's a situation that happens, and then later on, you'll feel the results of that trauma. And again, you have to deal and handle it. There are times when we may be going through a trauma or going through a traumatic situation or have gone through a traumatic situation, and we are lying to ourselves or not facing this, what's going on at hand. And we try to hide it. And that thing is going to come up. Like I said, my lower back started hurting, and it's a particular area just a few days ago, and this happened years ago. And so again, this is something that reminded me that the things that we go through is part of our life story, that they are part of our scars, that we are going to be affected by that traumatic situation. And I want to take a moment, even right now, to acknowledge that some of you may be going through something or have gone through something recently or will go through something that talking to someone is vital. And talking with someone, using discernment on how and what you share with them, but also being able to be free to not try to store or carry the weight of what you're going through alone. It's really important that you just seek guidance and counsel, because again, that particular situation, because I've had some other situations in my life, that particular situation, yeah, I dealt with it, worked through it, all that, but it doesn't mean that I'm not human and that, again, it's not going to resurface in some way or show itself in some way, such as, oh my gosh, my back is hurting. It kind of hurts to walk right now. So I just wanted to be real with you and honest with you in that particular moment. And overall, mental illness is real, and mental illness is something that can carry symptoms that will affect you. It'll affect your decisions. It'll affect how you react to people. For example, if you're hungry, some of us, if we get too hungry, we get hangry and we can't deal with people because we need to meet a physical need and for us to, not react in that way. And so you can't really hide it no matter how well you think you're hiding it. And so I want to encourage you to just be real and be honest with that. And lastly, I want us all to just remember to have moments to be self-aware, to have personal check-ins with ourselves, to see, hey, how are we doing? That's one of the reasons why you were encouraged this past week to follow your mood tracker, because it's so easy for us to go through life, move through life, and just keep going, going, going. And we go, go, go so much that we might end up facing burnout, that if something were to have happened along the way and we didn't deal with it, catastrophe could happen and we can explode in a way that we didn't see or anyone around us didn't see coming. And if you are in a moment where you feel like life is chaotic, you're confused, I want to encourage you to read Psalms 139, 23 through 24 and say, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Assess what's going on in your life. Assess the environment there you're around. Assess what you're absorbing. What are you looking at? What are you eating? What are you listening to? All those things will take part in your mental health. It takes a part how your spiritual health is doing. All of that plays a role in how you see yourself and what direct focus that you're having, and what direct focus your thoughts are on. And I want to encourage you and I want to challenge you and ask you too, especially for those of you who are going through something right now or going through a dark time right now. The reality is God and Jesus, when he was walking this earth, performed miracles. And even in the midst of the miracles, they told people, you need to do this. I need you, Jesus said, pick up your mat. We have to also do our part. And so I want to ask you, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Are you in a place and in a space right now where you just want to keep your head down and stay in the darkness alone? Or do you want to lift up your head and your eyes and look and move forward and move toward the light? Because even though you may not see him right now, if you're a believer in the Lord, you're not alone. You're not. It may look like it, but you're not. And again, it's time for us to be real with ourselves about what we're going through and what we're dealing with. It's time to be real, y'all.